Pakistan's fugitive former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, who went into exile nearly 4 years ago, has now returned home, creating even greater political uncertainty in a country already paralyzed by skullduggeries. Sharif, who is 73, was disqualified in 2017 by the Supreme Court over corruption allegations. He was sentenced to 7 years, but it was suspended to allow him to leave the country on medical grounds for 4 weeks. Those 4 weeks nearly became 4 years. In a bizarre turn, he was granted protective bail by the Islamabad High Court, which meant he cannot be arrested even as he prepared to appear before a court. To understand the implications of Sharif's return, even as Pakistan grapples with multiple existential crises, including a shattered economy, Mayank Chhaya Reports spoke to Raoof Hasan, a well known analyst of Pakistan affairs, who also happens to be the information secretary of the incarcerated former Prime Minister Imran Khan's Tehreek-e-Insaf party. Raoof Hasan. I want to pick your brain as an eminent analyst of Pakistan affairs in the context of the return of former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif and its political implications. Give me a broad picture view of what you think it means at this stage.
Mayank, it means many things at the same time. Basically, it is the return of a convict and absconded to Pakistan, to state welcome, very elaborate state welcome. That speaks volumes of the gradual criminalization of the state apparatus in Pakistan, be it the executive, be it the judiciary, be it the other state institutions. Unfortunately, they're all together in this. A decision was taken that a criminal is to be brought back to Pakistan. So elaborate arrangements were made with the assistance, support, and connivance of all state institutions, most notably the judiciary. So he arrived here and was taken straight to Minar-e-Pakistan ground. It's called the Iqbal Park ground, which is where the Pakistan resolution was passed. That is also symptomatic of the way the founding principles of Pakistan have been corrupted in the hands of people like Nawaz Sharif and others of the clique. In essence, it means that in Pakistan, there are two systems which are operating simultaneously. One system is for the rich and the beneficiary elite, and the other is for the poor people. While it is still possible, as a matter of fact, very essential that the small stealers should be punished heavily, it is also a given now that the dacoits would never be brought under the law. So they're free to do whatever they do. The sequence of things has been that, whenever these people have been removed, obviously, there's another force, which is operating behind the scenes. So they bring in people, and then if they run into difficulty with those people, then they're ousted. And these people then take off for foreign lands, enjoy the illicit gains that they have made and invested in those countries, particularly London. And then they start begging the authorities, for forgiveness, and it takes a while. Once they're forgiven, they're brought back and replanted in the seats of power. Consequently, those people who believe that Pakistan has even a shade of democracy, they're mistaken. We don't have democracy. We have always had dictatorship, and this dictatorship has borne two faces. One, direct rule when military generals have taken over, and indirect rule, when they have planted their stooges, in the seats of power. Consequently, for almost all of the 76 years that we have been there as a so-called independent and sovereign country, we have been ruled either directly or from behind the curtains by the military. So this is unfortunate, and now we are looking forward to another tenure with Nawaz Sharif in the seat of power. Well, I'm just saying this, but I think there's still some time to go. there is a narrative running in town, that possibly he would not be the ultimate winner and that his younger brother Shahbaz possibly would be brought back again. But this is only speculation. It has no substantive proof to back it. But many such things have happened in the past, so I would not be surprised at all. So, in essence, if I may say, his return to Pakistan and the reception that was accorded to him and the way he is being planted back in power reflects a deep criminalization of the state apparatus.
How do you see the fact that the Islamabad High Court today granted him sort of a protective bail until October 26th in the Evanfield and Al Azizia cases? Do you suspect a judicial fix here?
He was granted a protective bail on the 21st, and that expired on 24th. So on the 24th today, that bail was extended to 28th. So basically, he did not arrive in Pakistan without the protective bail. He had been granted the bail. That in itself is a violation of what is a protective bail? A protective bail is granted to a person who wants to appear before a court of law, and he is not in the same city as the court of law. Consequently, he is granted a protective bail from that city where he resides or where he is at that moment in time to where the court of law is, so that he can travel to the court of law and surrender before it. Now, that technically has not been done. That is the protective bail. He was given a protective bail, carte blanche protective bail, and everything that he had been accused of and he had been convicted of, basically. So, without surrendering before a court of law, that no bail is possible. And then for a convict, the place is the prison. He cannot go anywhere because he escaped from the prison, escaped inverted commas. He escaped from the prison. So he had to go back to the prison. And from there, the process of securing bail should have initiated. That, unfortunately, it was not like that. He remained a free man after his arrival in Pakistan. As a matter of fact, he was taken to, as I said, the Minar-e-Pakistan to address the Jalsa there, to address the gathering of people there. So, it is in violation of every shred of the justice system in Pakistan, every shred of the constitution and the rule of law. And it has been done so blatantly and it has been done so shamelessly, that I just don't have the words to describe it, basically. So yes, the courts, as you asked, let me say that the courts are patently complicit in this criminal drama which is being enacted in the country at this moment in time.
I'm trying to wrap my head around the fact that a convict returns from a self-imposed exile, gets a protective bail. How do you compute this? I'm really trying to understand what that means.
Well, I think the intellectual difficulty that you may be facing, in trying to comprehend, is the intellectual difficulty that I face, in comprehending it, even as, but as a Pakistani, possibly I can understand that over a period of time, there has been a systematic criminalization of the state institutions, and I've written often on this. No, they have been corrupted to an extent, where they have not remained fully functional, and they can be manipulated. Whichever way you would, whichever way those people, who have the reins of power in their hands, they may want to. So, we don't have a system. We don't have a governing system any longer. We don't have a parliament any longer. We don't have an effective constitution any longer. We don't have any rule of law in the country. So, these things are up for grabs, and those who have the guns, basically, they grab them and they use them. Mm-hmm. So this is, we are seeing an enactment, which has all the symptoms of this malaise. Legitimacy in this country does not spring from constitution and rule of law any longer. Legitimacy in this country springs from the ones, who have either the power of the gun or power of the pelf, that they've assimilated over a period of time. So it's power and pelf both, a combination of that, basically, and that is how they win elections also. Sharif is the person, basically, the tribe of Sharif, basically, they're the people, who introduced money into Pakistani politics, back in the 70s, And I remember, because, he used to be one of my clients, so I've known him very well. I remember, that, they had two mottos. Buy the people you can, or eliminate/liquidate the ones you can't.
I see.
This is the motto, a twin motto basically. And this is the way they functioned. All those people, let me give you a recent example. All those people who appeared as witnesses against, in the cases of corruption against Shehbaz Sharif, when they were inducted into power, all of them were physically eliminated. They died of strange heart attacks, all of them. One was killed in Dubai, others were killed in Pakistan. All those people who appeared as witnesses in cases relating to Shehbaz Sharif were physically eliminated.
Oh.
Well, it cannot be a coincidence, maybe one person or two person, not five of them.
Right.
And this is part of recorded history in Pakistan, but there is nobody moved an inch. Nobody ever questioned it, basically, because the media is gagged. And if you may allow me to sort of say something, it is we are in the grip of intellectual prostitution.
Wow.
That is the reality of Pakistan. Because to me, corruption emanates from up there, from your brain, from here. And if you're prostituted there is nothing right that you can do.
Right.
And that, unfortunately, is what we have regressed to doing.
The National Accountability Bureau, NAB, has said it has no objections to the plea filed for the bail. Is this a precursor to him basically getting a clean chit?
Well, they will give him a clean chit. All of them, like, for example, when the bail application had been moved, and it was being heard in the court of law, they said, that we have no objection to no objection if the court bails him out. I mean, they are the ones who initiated the cases against him. They are the ones who had him declared convicts by the courts of law, and now they say that we have no objection to the court bailing him out. So, were they wrong then? Are they wrong now? They can't be right then and now. At both times. So, I mean, this is what the institutions of the state are doing in the open. It is not a hidden truth. It's an open and painful truth that we're witnessing day in and day out. That those institutions which had him convicted by the courts of law are today saying that they have no objection to him being bailed out or to him being released of the charges.
Yeah, in the same context, the Accountability Court in Islamabad has also suspended the perpetual arrest warrants in the context of the Tosha Khana case, which is ironic because Imran Khan is currently clapped in on some of those same charges.
He was sent to prison for 3 years for a crime which actually did not exist, while his crime is established. He took away something, which he was forbidden to take away, which is a car. You could not take away a car from Tosha Khana.
Right.
So, he has been released of the charge of a much graver nature, and Khan was punished for 3 years. He was sent to prison for 3 years.
Right.
And disqualified for a crime which of course is fake and frivolous, but that's a different thing. But even if you were to compare his crime with that of Nawaz Sharif, I mean, this crime would pale into insignificance as compared to what he did. He violated the rules and regulations, while Khan never violated any rules and regulations.
How do you see the wider implications for Pakistan's politics of his return? You said that he may not return as prime minister, but it's possibly paving the way for his brother. But do you think Nawaz Sharif can sit around without being in a position of the ultimate power?
Well, one has known of the feud between the families of the two brothers, Nawaz and Shehbaz. Of course, I have known it personally. As I said, I have known them through decades, and that feuding has intensified in recent past. And in Shehbaz's son, he feels that they have been wronged in the past, and that every time there was an opportunity, it was the older brother who ran away with the post of the prime ministership, and they also claim, that if Shehbaz had been there, they would never have been any fight with the military, and this is true to a great extent, because as I said, he laps much better than his older brother. So he's much dearer to the establishment, than his older brother, because the 16 months, 17 months that he was the prime minister, there was not even an inkling of any problem between him and the establishment, because he would just comply. He would just wag his tail and say, yes sir, I will do it. But the older brother has a different instinct, in him, basically. So, he would every now and then, he would, his princely instinct, would kind of stir him to revolt in inverted commas, and that is what you've seen in the last 3 decades of, when he has come into power, I think 3 or 4 times. Yes, that is so. That is so. And even now, it is being speculated, in the grapevine, that I think ultimately it is going to be Shahbaz. Ajay Basaria was your High Commissioner in Pakistan, and he was a dear friend of mine, in fact, a wonderful person. He just recently penned an article. He sent a copy to me. He said Nawaz may actually be just an Awaz, AWAZ. So you just take the N out, and Awaz means voice, sound.
Yeah.
So, this is the headline of his article. He sent it to me and I read it. Very interesting article. But this could actually be true. This could actually be true, that he has come back, he has been brought back, but he may not be given the seat of power. The seat of power may be actually be given to somebody else. And what is being speculated is that, I think his younger brother possibly would be the recipient of that reward rather than him. But, it is, there's a long way to that. Let's see what happens, whether the elections are held, and how does PMLN figure in the elections, whether they're able to secure a majority. We suspect, that it's going to be bits and pieces parties, and a loose kind of discordant coalition that will be put in place, so that the strings would continue to be pulled by those forces, which always dance behind the curtains, So this is what is being speculated, and I think I tend to agree with this loose and weak kind of coalition government, that will take shape maybe under the leadership of Shahbaz Sharif or somebody else, basically. I don't know. I can't say much about that, but I'm sure that no one party will have the numbers to form the government, on its own.
To change gears a bit, what do you expect in terms of the future for Imran Khan? Do you think he'll have to serve out his 3 years before anything can happen, or he might get a bail?
Mayank, it's a very difficult question I am so deeply involved in this on a day-to-day basis, basically. You see, number one, I don't feel that they have an iota of sympathy for Imran Khan. The powers who have sent him in, I think they would like him to stay there, at least till such time, that elections have been held and a new government has been inducted, and then give it some more time before the prospect of a bail is granted to him. Pundits are speculating that he may be in from a minimum of 3 years to about 7, 8, maybe even 10 years. But you can't speculate that far ahead. You can't. I feel that, in essence, he has no cases against him, basically. And if these go to courts, which are allowed to operate independently, then I think, these cases will be thrown out within the first, 1 or 2 hearings. So he's in there simply because he's in there and they want him in there. He's not in there because he's committed a crime, so he should be in there, or he should serve a sentence or something. So by the look of it, basically, I don't see any reprieve coming from the judiciary, at least for the time being. I don't see any reprieve coming from elsewhere. Yes, there is pressure on him to leave the country. If he agrees to leave the country, then of course, this will all be written off over a period of time.
Oh, he has that option, is it?
He has been given that option, and there is in fact a lot of pressure on him that he leaves the country. So he refuses to leave the country, and I have it on authority that he says, this is my country and I'm not going to leave it under any circumstances. As a matter of fact, he goes a step further and says, I have nothing to go, I have nothing elsewhere that I should go back to. And he says that if I leave under these circumstances, I'm not a leader. And he said, look, there are people who have suffered for me, there are people who continue to suffer for me, so leaving this country is not an option that I would ever consider. So he's here. Consequently, you should be punished for his, as what people generally say, that he has not behaved like other leaders. As I said, earlier, in response to one of your questions, that this is a tradition that people are dethroned. They leave the country, they have a wonderful time, using the illicit funds that they have made, and then they beg and forgiveness. They're given forgiveness and they're brought back. Nawaz Sharif is a classic example. He's a convict and an absconder, but that did not stand in the way of fulfillment of the wishes of those people who have the power reins in their hands. So he's back, and he was given, as I said, a state welcome, a VVIP state welcome. So, but he is not. He says no. That option is out. So let them do whatever they want to with me. But more specifically, the chances of his early release are scant,
I
to
see.
say the least.
And this option was offered to him by whom? Was it officially offered, or was it behind the scenes informally offered?
Well, it has been on the cards, basically the -1 formula. What is it basically? The party will survive, in case you eliminate Khan. So, I would not like to name names here, but I know exactly those people, who have been working on this project, on behalf of the powers that be.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you look at your party, PTI, which is, of course, Imran Khan's party? What's happening there? I think the popular angst seems to have tapered off or practically died down now. Is it not true?
No. Even today, 3 of our women parliamentarians have been forced away today as we talk. They have been forced away. So first, they were not resorting to kidnapping and forced disappearances, and then subjecting people to what, and then conversions. But this is a new format that they have adopted. Instead of presenting them before courts of law, arresting them formally, and then arresting them and presenting them before courts of law to seek remands, be it judicial, be it physical, they have now started kidnapping people, and then keeping them incognito for a certain period of time, for up to, like, for example, in case of Imran Riaz, the journalist, he was kept away for almost 4.5 months, and he has now been released, and his state is pitiable. Honestly, I would not even like to describe it, basically. So our people have been kept away for 1 month, 1.5 months, 2 months, and then they come back. They either address a press conference, disassociating from PTI and joining another party, or dissociating from politics altogether, or they appear in a program anchored by somebody, like Dawn has hosted one such program, Dunia has hosted one such program, and a couple of other channels have also hosted such programs. So this is the new pattern. This is the new format, take people away, subject them to torture, and force them to convert and leave PTI. So we have survived in spite of this, basically. And I feel, in certain cases, people who left the party, we feel happy because they were the migratory birds, and we made a mistake. As a matter of fact, we concede that we made a mistake to accept them in the party when we did. So they're gone. So party is kind of closer to its ideological moorings and more cohesive, and in certain respects even stronger. I would not say in terms of number of people, but definitely in terms of the quality of people that we have in the party today, it is much stronger and much more cohesive. So elections we shall take part in, Mayank, no matter what is the nature of oppression and suppression in the country at that moment in time, particularly what the party has been subjected to in the last 18 months, but more particularly in the last 5.5 months since 9th of May. So we are fully prepared to take part in the elections, but there is another looming danger where we feel that they're not going to allot us the symbol of that. This is although they had verbally committed to us, which is well recorded. They now, after 5 or 6 weeks of that verbal commitment, they're kind of backing out, and we feel that we will not have an election symbol, which is going to be a huge handicap, because in an uneducated and country like Pakistan, people usually vote by symbols.
Right.
They can't even read names. So that is number one. Two, there is also speculation that they may not allow PTI to take part in elections, if Imran is still the leader of the party. So we are coping with these two challenges. They will definitely deny us the symbol. I am very certain about it now because I've been following it up myself, as a party leader. I don't know how far they will go to deny PTI participation in the election process, whenever it is held, understandably towards the end of Jan or maybe sometime in February next year.
Yeah. To conclude on a slightly different note, now that the Americans are distracted by the Israel-Hamas war, has it had any impact on the way they used to treat from Islamabad? The way I think you were especially critical of the way the Americans were meddling in your affairs.
Well, there has absolutely been no change in their approach and attitude. We are to them, we are as good as a colony, and as I said in one of your programs, economic captive of the Americans, and they're trying to manipulate. Now, I'm sure you must have gone through the second part of the Intercept story, where we have sold arms to Ukraine, which arms were paid for by the government of the United States of America, $900 million. So, no, we have done that, and I don't know whether at this point in time we continue to supply arms. I would not be surprised at all. So, which is like dragging Pakistan into yet another unwanted war. If the situation in Ukraine worsens over a period of time, there may even be pressure on Pakistan to send troops to Ukraine. And with our economic belittlement and our economic enfeeblement, I don't know how vulnerable we would be then. We are already very vulnerable before the USFA. Whether that enfeeblement increases with time, I suspect yes, it will. Because we have not been able to find any sustainable means to recovering from this economic collapse. So I feel that they are in the driving seat, and they are manipulating Pakistan, in the manner. And my own interactions with some Western, I'm also heading the diplomatic committee of the party, so we keep interacting, with the ambassadors and other ranks at the embassies and high commissions in Pakistan. And I see that, there is a common sort of tinge to their thought process, which is that, Imran was not good for Pakistan. So, and this is why this is also the reason why we have not been able to incurse the human rights organizations in the world, and they have not taken up the issue of human rights violations in Pakistan as aggressively as they should have done, because basically they deal with that, and they, no delegation has visited Pakistan to make on the spot evaluation of how things are. So, excuse me. So there's a slant to the thinking process. There's a general perceptible slant to the thinking process. Once we interact with them, that's right.
Connected to that, it just struck me that if Iran is in a sense driving Hamas in the context of Israel, wouldn't the U.S. be interested in perhaps arm twisting via Pakistan? That they can maybe lean on the powers that be in Pakistan as well as in Iran?
Well, let us go back to the 70s. We were dragged into the war against the former Soviet Union. And what was common between then and now? And then, of course, towards the end of the last century, we were dragged into a war on terrorism, fighting terrorism. What the common factors then and today are Pakistan's economic enfeeblement. And then two dictators had taken over, and they were looking for legitimacy. And of course, legitimacy is only given by the Americans. It's not given by China or Russia or anybody else. Basically, they have the institutions of the world under their control. Consequently, they legitimize. So Zia's dictatorship was legitimized by the West, and as quid pro quo, he plunged Pakistan into that war against the former Soviet Union. Then, of course, the Musharraf took over, and he was also seeking legitimacy, and that legitimacy was given in exchange for Pakistan agreeing to fight the war on terror. And we suffered immensely because of these two wars. Now, here is the making of a third war. And I totally agree with your analysis that, if that be so, yes, Pakistan can potentially be dragged into yet another war, but which is going to be much nearer to where we are located in South Asia than the wars that we fought in the past. So, although we are still suffering from the consequences of those wars, the terrorism, the spree of terrorism, for example, that is a consequence of the war that we fought on, against terror on behalf of the Americans. And, even before that, it started when we were fighting the former Soviet Union on behalf of the Americans. So all wars, basically, that we have fought have been have not been dictated by interests, Pakistan's interests. They have been dictated by the United States of America, almost always contrary to Pakistan's interests. So we have suffered, but the powers that be in this country, unfortunately, have not been able to see through this through this whale of support that we get from the Americans. For example, understandably, before we sold arms to Ukraine, there was a signing of an agreement between Pakistan and the U.S. whereby Pakistan has now been permitted to buy U.S. arms. Obviously, we don't have the money to do it, at least for the time being. But we have now been formally permitted to buy the U.S. arms. So these are the kind of facilities that are very attractive to some people in this country. That we can do it, we can do it, we can do it. We remain inherently westernized. I mean, we've not been able to break out of that colonial mold. And we would have done it. I mean, for example, in your parent country, for example, you did two things. When India, when the subcontinent was partitioned. Number one, under Prime Minister Nehru, you had a constitution within about 2 years or less than 2 years, of your independence. So you had a rule of law. You had a book to go by.
Right.
And two, you stuck at feudalism. You abolished feudalism, basically. So you created a society, which was in essence an equal and equitable society. We unfortunately had our first constitution in 56 that lasted a few months only. And we ended up getting a constitution in 1973. And that 73 means, that we had a constitution 26 years after Pakistan came into existence. And within 3 days of adopting that constitution unanimously by the National Assembly of Pakistan, we made the First Amendment.
Right.
So this is how important we consider the constitution to be, unfortunately. So the democratic roots are not well dug in, and sort of kind of saying that we are from a martial race and all that. Fighting comes kind of naturally to me. I mean, I'm not saying it that is the way it should be, but we feel that we can fight. So maybe do that instead of studying, instead of going and excelling in so many different fields. I think that's something that we take to. And that unfortunately has been one of the principal ingredients of Pakistan's unmaking in many fields. Yeah. So it's a mindset, which is very difficult to curb, or which very, very difficult to sort of, moderate. We exist in the extreme, and existing in the extreme is very taxing.
It is.
But yes, we love existing in the extreme, living in the extreme. We love these extreme situations, and then we say, oh, we've sorted it out. We actually have not sorted it out. Because when we try to sort it out, we actually cultivate more germs of divisions within the society, and unfortunately have to suffer the consequences. But the reasoning, the thinking process, is not thought through. It's very superficial. It's very artificial. Whenever we feel that, that thinking process is going to take us to some unwanted realities, we leave it there. So, when we were, when a bit of the time that I served in the military, we learned tactics, and the enemy in the front, used to be the least important. What was far more important in planning your war was your supply line at the back, and your flanks, to covering your flanks. So, we barely attend to the front. That's all. And that is as far as our thinking process takes us. So it's deficient. It's kind of you need to sort of remodel it. We need to sort of think through and see what will be the consequences in 3 years, in 30 years, and even in 300 years. We have to think that far ahead. And that,
Absolutely,
unfortunately, is not in there. We are only concerned with the present, now, today, at this moment. That's it.
Yeah.